Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to learn about an artist named Frida Kahlo. Frida was a Mexican female artist in the early 1900s, and she painted a lot of self-portraits and portraits in general. We're going to watch a little video that explains more about her life, so enjoy!
Frida Kahlo and Her Animalitos by Monica Brown. Illustrated by John Barra. This is the story of a little girl named Frida who grew up to be one of the most famous painters of all time. Frida was special. This is also the story of 2 monkeys, a parrot, 3 dogs, 2 turkeys, an eagle, a black cat, and a fawn. They were Frida's pets, and they were special too. Frida had a parrot named Bonito. Like her parrot, Frida was colorful. She liked to wear bold shades that celebrated indigenous Mexico and her own heritage. She lived in the house, the color of the parrot's bright blue feather, La Casa Azul, where she grew up with her mom, dad, and sisters. Frida had a pet fawn named Granizo. Like her fawn, Frida had watchful, beautiful eyes. When Frida closed her eyes, she remembered her life as a little girl. Frida was always with her father, a photographer who taught her how to look at the world through curious eyes. Frida and her father would walk to the park to collect bugs to look at under a microscope. Frida's father also taught her how to paint finishing touches on his photographs. Frida loved the small brushes and the beautiful colors. Frida had a cat with black, shiny fur, the same color as her long dark hair. Like a cat, Frida was playful, but as a child, Frida couldn't always play. When Frida was 6, she got very sick. She was in bed for a long time. But little Frida didn't get sad or bored. Instead, she used her breath to make mist on her window, and then she drew a door with her finger. Frida used her big imagination and curious eyes to walk out the door with a magic friend, a little girl who danced and played like a kitten. Frida was independent, like a cat. Frida's sickness left one of her legs different from the other, and children made fun of her. But this didn't stop Frida from skating and riding bikes and rowing on the lakes of Chapultepec Park, so that her leg could get stronger. Frida was not afraid to do things other little girls didn't usually do. She wore overalls and boxed and wrestled. Frida had 2 spider monkeys, Fulain Cheng and Caimito de Gualabal. Like her monkeys, Frida could be mischievous, even when she was a teenager. When Frida was 15, she went to a school called the Preparatoria and found a group of friends she loved. Like Frida, her friends were curious to learn all they could. Together, they read and studied, and argued and sometimes got in trouble. Wearing matching caps, they rode donkeys through the halls of the Preparatoria and set off fireworks. Frida had an eagle named Gertrudis. Like her eagle, Frida's imagination could fly high. When Frida was 18, she was in a terrible accident, and once again, she had to be in bed for many months. This time, Frida didn't create a magic friend, she created art. Frida's mother made her a special easel and hung a mirror over her canopy bed so Frida could paint. Frida used her imagination and curious eyes to do just that. Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly? And if those weren't enough pets, Frida had 2 turkeys and 3 dogs, Señor Xolotlin, Señorita Capulina, and Señora Costi. Frida's turkeys were intelligent and sensitive, just like herself. And, like Frida, her dogs were warm and loving. When she was lonely or sad, she would wrap her arms around them and they would comfort her. Her Xolo dogs were the same breed that ran and hunted with the Aztecs thousands of years ago, and a reflection of Frida's heritage, of which she was very proud. Frida's dogs had no hair, but their bodies were warm, and Frida gave them great big hugs whenever she felt lonely or sad. Frida's animalitos were spirited and entertaining, just like Frida. When her two spider monkeys were being good, Frida would hold them like babies. When they were being mischievous, they would steal socks and fruit and leap through windows so no one could catch them. Her parrot named Bonito liked to snuggle under the covers while Frida took naps and would do tricks at the dinner table for pats of butter. Frida's animalitos played all day in the courtyard at La Casa Azul, the bright blue house on Londres Street. Her husband Diego Rivera even made the animals a pyramid to climb on so that her pets could roam freely. When Frida painted, her pets would keep her company, and Frida painted all the time, while the birds sang, the dogs barked, and the turkeys danced in the garden. Frida's animals were her children, her friends, and her inspiration. Frida painted when she was sick and hurting, and Frida painted when she was happy. She also painted when Diego was gone and she was sad. But Frida was never really alone at La Casa Azul, the bright blue house on Londres Street. She had her animalitos and herself, and she painted both. Frida painted herself with Fu Lang Cheng playing with ribbons. She painted herself with Bonito the parrot and Señor Xolotil the dog. She painted her black cat too, peeking over her shoulder. Frida painted herself with all the pets she loved so much, and even butterflies and caterpillars. Her paintings were magic. And today, if you visit La Casa Azul in Coyoacán, just outside of Mexico City, you might hear the sound of a bird or see a black cat jump from the pyramid that sits in the courtyard of the bright blue house on Londres Street, where Frida and her animalitos lived so many years ago.
So today we're going to be inspired by Frida Kahlo's self-portrait with her pets. And we're going to create our own version using watercolor paper and watercolor colored pencils. So the first thing we need to do when we get our paper is to write our name and class code on the back, just like we always do. If you need help with what we're going to be doing or what the class code, let me know. Then we're going to flip our paper over and we're going to be using a face template to help us out today. You need to think about composition when you're doing this. So don't put your face too high or too low. We want it kind of in the middle so that we can have a good background. And when you're drawing, I recommend drawing lightly. You can practice this on the back of your hand by drawing very lightly and less pressure. You don't hurt my hand, but if I press hard like I just did, it's going to hurt. So practice drawing lightly. This makes it easier when we trace our picture if we draw it lightly to erase things, or if we accidentally go off the template, we have it there. So practice drawing lightly. After we have our head traced, the next thing we're going to do is to draw our neck and our shoulders for our self-portrait. Now the neck starts about here, and if you want to draw with a finger first so that you know that you're going to be drawing straight lines down from the sides of your face, that's okay. And your neck's actually a cylinder, so we're going to do a curved line so it makes it look more 3D. Now a lot of people, when they do their shoulders, you're going to draw bubbles, but we don't want to do that. Your neck or your shoulders are actually straight lines that come off of your neck. So we're going to draw straight lines coming down from your neck to make your shoulders. Alright, so the next step is we're going to be making sure that our face is symmetrical. That means the same on both sides. And it's very, very important that you draw lightly for this, because we're going to be drawing a line straight down our face that we don't want to keep. So we're going to draw a straight line that divides our face in half, just like that. And it's very important that you draw lightly because we want to erase this later. I know it's kind of hard to see my line right now, so I'm going to zoom in so that you can see it a little bit better. And we're also going to be drawing a line that splits our face in half going horizontally. And remember to draw very, very lightly, but this is going to be our eye line, okay? So we want it about halfway down our face, and this is where our eyes are gonna go. So a fun fact about your face is that the head is actually 5 eye widths wide. So I'm dividing my paper into 5 different equal sections, because that is how far spaced apart the eyes are. You don't need to do this if you don't want to, but I find it to be very helpful later. Now, everyone's eyes are slightly different, and that's what makes us so unique. But there are several different ways that we can make eyes, and they all start off with a simple football shape. So you're going to get a paper that looks like this, that has different eye shapes that you can choose from to add to your picture, depending on what your eyes look like. I'm going to do a simple one just because that's what I think is going to be easiest for you guys. And what you start by doing is kind of like a frowny shape, and you're going to do it to both sections. You want these to look symmetrical, so as close to the same as possible. Then I'm going to do a smiley shape, so we're kind of making like a football shape like that. It's called an ellipse. Now your iris, which is the colored part of your eye, is actually covered up slightly by the top eyelid. So when you draw your iris, make sure that you don't do just a circle in the center of your eye. Your pupil, which is the black part of your eye, goes in the center of your iris, or the colored part. Next, we need to do the eyelid. So we're going to do 2 curved lines for the eyelid because our eyes have stuff on top of them. The last thing we're going to do before we pause is we're going to draw our eyebrows. Our eyebrows are little tiny hairs that go above our eyelids, and they kind of form an arch shape, just like this. So now we're going to pause the video and you can draw your eyes. Now that we have our eyes done, we're going to move on to the nose, mouth, and ears. Now your nose and mouth are 1/3 all the way of your bottom part of your picture, of your face. So I'm going to break the bottom part of my face up into thirds. 1, 2, 3. Your nose is actually curved from your eye area, and then it goes out and forms like a C shape. Then I'm going to add another curved line right there for our nose. Then we're going to be doing our mouth. You're going to get a paper that looks like this that has a whole bunch of different mouths. You can choose in a moment what mouth you want to draw. But they all start off basically the same, and I'm going to do the simple one. It starts off with a curve, whether that be up or down if you're frowning. And then it has your lips shapes, which kind of looks like a really stretched out M. Then we have another smiley shape for our bottom lip. Now if you have a bigger top lip, you're going to go up higher. If you have a bigger bottom lip, you're going to go down lower. If you're going to show some teeth, you're going to be adding an extra line below that bottom lip. We also need to add eyelashes, which I forgot to do. So if you want to add eyelashes, you can. If not, that is perfectly fine too. They're just curved lines that come off the top of your eye and bottom of your eye. And your ears actually go from your eye line down to your nose line. And they are going to be C shapes, or opposite of C shape. And it goes all the way up like that. So they don't look like big C's, they look like skinny C's. Just like that. So now we're going to pause the video before we do our hair. So So for our hair, you're going to get a sheet that looks like this, and you can choose whichever hairstyle you want. Just keep in mind that your hair goes above your head. So if you see in all these pictures, your hairline goes above where your head is. So you can choose whichever picture that you want. I'm going to do this one. And I'm going to follow the curve of my head to create some things. And the reason that we have this big top space up here is because most people have a hair right above their eyebrows with bangs, or even if you're a boy, your hair comes down a little bit. So that's what that big empty space up there is for. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out my hair really quick. You can choose whichever hairstyle that you want to do for your self-portrait. And we're going to end up erasing all of these guidelines that we put in. So if you draw lightly, you'll be able to erase those guidelines. And if you make a mistake with your hair, if you draw lightly, you'll be perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up real quick, and then we're going to move on to our pets. So for your pets, you're going to have a whole bunch of pictures to choose from. I have 2 dogs and a cat, so I'm going to start by drawing my cat, and all you have to do is follow along with the picture. So for my cat, I started out with 2 circles, and then I connected that to its neck, from its neck to its body, and then I'm drawing its eyes. Just follow along with the pictures to draw your pets. And you need to be thinking about composition here as well. So I know that I want my cat in the front, and then I'm going to put my dogs behind me. But you do what you like. Just make sure that you're drawing big and drawing lightly, so that if you make a mistake, you can. Now, I made a mistake. My cat only has 1 eye, so I'm fixing that up. And I decided I don't like his little whiskers that well, so I erased those. So go ahead and draw your pets. Make sure to draw them big. You want to do some overlapping with this project. And then we're going to use a Sharpie to outline all of our different pictures. So here's an example of my finished project. I have my 2 dogs and my cat, and then I Sharpied them. After that, we're going to move on to color. Now in my background, I had some blank space, so that you can see that I added some nature or flowers or leaves to my background because we're inspired by Frida Kahlo, and that's what she did. So after you have finished your background, you have it all filled in how you like it, then we're going to start adding color. And how we do that is we're going to be using watercolor colored pencils. The great thing about watercolor colored pencils is that you can scribble them and still get some great color. It doesn't have to be perfect. All you do after you scribble in your different colors is you're going to take some water and spread out all of that color, just like you see me doing here. Another example would be up here in this flower. I'm going to spread out all that color. So I didn't really color that well. I just scribbled all over, and then I'm going to be filling it in with my water. So for our skin tone, we don't have a skin tone color, so we're actually going to be making our own skin tone colors, because all of our skin tones are slightly different. You're going to get a scrap piece of paper, and we're going to be mixing 3 of our watercolor colored pencils together to create our skin tone. The colors that we're going to use are yellow, pink, and brown. Depending on how light or dark your skin tone is, that's going to be how much of each color you use. So I'm going to start off with a thin layer of brown, and then I'm going to add some pink, and finally I will add a little tiny bit of yellow to my skin tone color. What happens is these colors are going to mix together once we add the water to it, to create a skin tone color, as you can see here. Now that's not my skin tone, but when I add water to it, it's going to make it thinner and it's going to make it lighter, like you can see me adding onto my paper now. And that is my skin tone color. So make sure that you're practicing this first out on your scrap paper and adding water when your brush runs out. And then we can have a nice skin tone that actually matches our skin tone. And you can do this if you have other areas that don't match what the colors that you have. Like my cat is a different color than what I have. He is more of a skin tone color. You can even do it for your hair too. So my hair isn't yellow or orange. It has rainbow colors. But you're going to mix these colors on your scrap paper, and then you can go ahead and add them to your paper, kind of like a watercolor colored palette. I'm going to finish up painting my picture real quick and doing all of my color combining, and I will be right back with you guys. So now that I'm done painting, here is my final picture. I hope you guys enjoy this. Remember to draw lightly and then go over with Sharpie, and then we will add our color. Have fun, guys. Thanks for watching.